Mm.
Like you haven't stopped living your childhood. Parents are not done with their own childhood, and they see their children as an extension of their childhood.
Yeah.
And that's across the board. That don't have nothing to do with race or red pill. That's across the board. But it exacerbates the red pill crisis because now we have men who have not dealt with their own shame and their own pain from their own childhood. And then that plays out in the way that they parent, in the way that they show up or don't show up for their sons.
All right, all right. Welcome back to another episode of the Passion in Motion podcast. I'm your host Mutsa, and today I am joined by a very, very special guest, Aishia Grevenberg. Hi, Aisha. How you doing?
Hello, how are you?
Doing well, doing well. How are you today?
I'm doing very well today.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So today, listeners, we have Aisha here to talk about the Netflix show Adolescence. And if you haven't watched it already, I guess I don't want to explain it too much and give spoilers away, but it's just about how essentially red pill content manifests itself in teenage boys and how they end up reacting to that. It's based in the UK, and if we know anything about the UK, it's quite rampant over there in terms of just how, like, with knife culture and how that
Mm,
manifests itself. We've heard a lot of news stories about young boys killing young girls over rejections and different types of things. So it was a
mhm.
very what can I say, current show that talks about a lot of societal things that are facing a lot of people today. So we're going to have a conversation about that and kind of get into some deep things. So the first question I have for you is, what was your first reaction to watching the show? Like, when you finished watching the entire thing, like what was happening for you? Like, what are your first kind of thoughts?
So I binge watched it and I really didn't know what it was about. So I
Mm.
binge watched it and I got finished at about 1 or 2 a.m. And I was actually crying. The last episode, I definitely was crying.
Mm.
The last scene was very touching for me.
Yeah.
That last episode in general was very, very emotional for me, the way the parents were talking.
Yeah.
And I was crying. So at the end of it, I was still in tears and I just sat there like so many thoughts, just thinking about the parents and particularly thinking about the father. And he tried,
Mm-hmm.
he did what he could do based on what he was given, but and it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
And just sitting with that and sitting with there, he's my generation. I'm 47. So the father in Adolescence is 50. It's his 50th birthday. And that's
Yeah.
the last episode. And so it just really made me think. And it that last episode really hit me because they were talking about family and like how it felt so regular. Like this could be anyone. This
Yeah.
could really be anyone. So I was very, very emotional and then very thoughtful. And I had to think about what I wanted to say before I wanted to raise my voice in the conversation. But it was very emotional for me.
Yeah, I mean, especially that last scene when he's like putting the teddy
Yes.
bear to bed and he's just really
That
crying
broke
into
me.
the, yeah, no, that was a lot.
That
That
broke me.
was, yeah. And it, for me as well, it was really scary because it's like you said, it's not as if there was anything particularly wrong in that household. It was just a very normal, and
Mhm.
that's what the show did really, really well. Like,
Yeah.
just showing just how regular, like, there's no, like, this can literally be your kid. Like, there's no
Yes.
regular, like, there's no, like, it's not dramatized.
Hmm.
It's just very, even the way they shot it, like, helped with that, I think, to just kind of
Yeah.
make it really, you felt like you were there. Like, I remember that moment
Hmm.
when he's in the bedroom with his wife and, he's wearing the shirt and they want to go see the movies. And she's like, we don't have to go. And they were having this back and forth. And it even felt like you're kind of like intruding on a really private conversation
Yeah.
because, yeah, it just, they did that really, really well. So I can understand. Even I felt like really, it took a while to even like process all that information because it's a
Yeah.
lot.
It is a lot. And so when I watch something like that, different parts of me are activated. I'm not a mother, but I have a ton of nieces and nephews. And my godson is 7. And
Mm,
so I'm thinking about him and thinking about what I'm seeing and like what messages Are we like his my best friend is his mother. And
Yeah.
so what are we giving him enough? And what is that? And so I watched it from the standpoint of a godmother. Then I watched it from the standpoint of a therapist and that lens. And then just the lens of a woman who's experienced domestic violence. And I work with men. And so there was so many thoughts. I was just like, it blew my mind. Blew my mind.
Yeah, it's really really well done. So I kind of want to like maybe we can start um getting into some of these things a little bit.
Sure.
So in terms of just like red pill content, for those people, we'll kind of have an idea of it. But what's your understanding of what red pill content is, and why do you feel that? Why is it so popular these days? In your understanding.
So I think that language is new, but the concept has always existed. And
Mm,
so growing up listening to hip hop, I'm a hip hop head 100%. And if you listen to old school hip hop, it
mm-hmm,
is completely misogynistic, completely
mm,
misogynistic. And the language, you don't even hear it until you get older. Like I was listening to this in middle school. Like this is what
yeah.
I was singing along to. You know what I'm saying? And so when you think about the movies that we watch and even the images in music videos,
Mm,
because that me growing up, like when Michael Jackson had a music video came out, it was like a
yeah.
world premiere. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A world premiere. We would like gather around the TV. It was like the dopest experience ever. And then all like when people had videos, it was a thing. It's not a thing now. But back in the day when somebody's video dropped, you sat there and you watched it.
Yeah.
And now stepping out of that and looking at those images of women in hip hop videos, and there's one where women are in, they have literally chains and they're being walked by I can't think of the rapper now off the top of my head. And just these images, that's misogyny.
Mm,
And so that was ubiquitous. That was in magazines, that was everywhere where you see a woman's body parts, but you don't see her face. And so I think what makes it different now is the volume and the direct access, right? So now you have back in the day, you had the rap video and you had the rock music and you had these images, and they weren't necessarily saying anything, but
mm-hmm,
the message was very much everywhere and it was very subconscious, right? Like these images that we're constantly exposed to about women being less than human. But now with red pill content, this narrative of dehumanizing women is something that people see on video games. Grand Theft Auto and the way that women are presented in these video games. And now you have these headphones on, you're playing video games, and people are talking about women, degrading them in your ear constantly. Or
mm,
you're in the YouTube, you go down the rabbit hole and it's video after video after video that is activating, very emotionally activating, and it really draws men in. And really, that constant imagery, that constant message, that's the difference. The exposure to it is nonstop. It's nonstop. And it's very clear and very explicit the way that women are depicted in this red pill content. So it's not new, it's always been here, but it's in your living room, it's on your phone, it's in your ear, it's in your face like never before.
yeah. No, that's certainly true. And I've been thinking about this as well because when I was growing up, like you said, music video, right? It's not like as if you're watching it all day. There were certain times that music video will
Yeah.
pop up on your screen. It's not as if
Hmm.
you could go look for it. I even think about because I've been thinking like, why is it now more? It's about access, right? As you were saying that Redpill content is more accessible right now because
Hmm.
everyone kind of has a smartphone. When we were growing up, smartphones were not really there yet. And so the information that we could only be exposed to was what you watched on TV. And
Right.
what you watched on TV, it's if you're privileged enough to even have a TV or even to have cable, that's also another
Yeah.
thing. Right now, all you need is internet. And internet
Hmm.
is, there's still a little bit of privilege when it comes to what kind of internet you have and stuff like that. But for the most part, everybody has access to the internet. So
Hmm.
I also think about maybe that's also kind of why we see a difference now. But as you're saying, it's always been there. But I just feel like now it's just an influx of it's
Yeah.
coming from you're gaming and you don't even know the kind of people you're talking to when you because it's like young boys speaking to old men Like, oh, we're just playing Fortnite
Yeah.
together, but you don't kind of know the
Yeah.
messages these guys are talking or chirping
Hmm.
the ear of this young kid, or
Hmm.
things like that. So it's very
Yeah,
scary.
it's a constant companion. It's constant companion. And think of it that way. Like this phone is with me all the time.
Hmm.
I sleep with it, right? I don't want someone to call me and I'm not available. So it's with me all the time. It's like right here. It's right here with me all the time.
Yeah.
But whenever I have 5 minutes, I'm like flipping, right? But
Hmm.
my content is all girly content and like, what are you doing this weekend? And cappuccino. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But imagine if that was your algorithm. And
Hmm.
so the effect of that algorithm is more pronounced now ever before. And so it's not just what you see on your phone when you turn your laptop, it's on your laptop, it's on your YouTube. Like we are surrounded in our own bubble. And so many men are in a bubble of red pill content that they cannot escape.
Yeah. Why do you think that it's feeding into men so much in this current climate, right? Like, why is it that men are so susceptible to red pill content? Because when I was reflecting on my own life, and if I grew up in this day and age, I know for sure I'd also be, because one of the things that I was thinking about is, red pill content kind of gets those guys who feel like they're good guys, right? It's just that women don't think I'm a good guy. But I don't know where the messaging came from, and I'll love to hear your opinion on that. Like where the messaging came from, that if you are a good man, you women will should not will but should want you because you're a good man. But
Hmm.
when we go through life, that's not always how it goes. So like I know when I was growing up, I thought I was a good guy, do really nice things, and I'll think, oh, I'm gonna have a girlfriend in high school. That's not how it played out. And you'd see like the bad boy who doesn't care at all, you know, just
Hmm.
acting, like the things you wouldn't even think of doing. But women are like, would be like, but how does this person always end up with somebody, you know? And so I know that if I was growing up now and I'm seeing that and that's my experience, and then I go online and I'm hearing somebody on YouTube saying, yeah, you are not the problem, women are, because this, and that. So,
Hmm.
uh, yeah, what a, like, why are men so susceptible to this?
I think a lot has happened and we don't talk about it. And one of the things that happened and it wasn't subtle, but it's not something that I don't, I'm a sociologist. My degree is in sociology. My master's is in social work. So this is something
Mhm.
I do all day long, right? This is what I'm into, what I talk about
Yeah.
for my whole life. And in the 70s, you could go and get a job. Seriously, and you can make really good money. You can go to a factory here in the United States. I'm from Trenton. You can go work in Trenton, Detroit, all these places where you could get a job. You didn't have to go to college. They would
Mm.
train you on the job. And union job, good benefits, pension, and you could make very good money and you could take care of a family. And so college was not needed. It really wasn't. In the 70s, it wasn't, right?
Hmm.
What happened was that our economy shift from low skilled manual labor to very high skilled, and it happened so subtly where the demand was that you went to college, and the demand was that you have skills, communication, empathy, leadership, right? You have to demonstrate that you have those skills. And so that changed, and girls got that message. It changed just as girls in math, right? Girls in STEM. It changed, and women were really steered toward college. Now, what happened in 1974 is that women, for the first time, were able to have a credit card in this country. And so, women's liberation and women being free from the control of men and in relationships, that was happening simultaneously. So
Mm.
as women were gaining their independence and freedom and really instilling that in their daughters, like you're going to take care of yourself, you're not going to be in this type of situation, you're going to go to college. Men were not getting that message at all. They were still living under the same mindset that I'm just going to graduate, I'm going to go get me a wife, we're going to have some kids, we're going to have a house and a lawn, it's going to be good, right? So they were unprepared for the economic challenges. That's number one.
Wait, why do you think that messaging was given to more women and girls as compared to men? Like if a mother had a girl child and a boy child in the household, and that message was given being given more to the girl. Why do you think that was the case?
A lot of it is protection. And I don't think men understand this because even on my platform now, talking about why Black men don't go to college, it's this idea that when you think about it, women have to protect themselves from men. And the
Hmm.
way you do that is financially, period.
Yeah.
If you don't have money, you are trapped.
That added context to that as well. There's an article that just came out. Was it today or March 30 about this phenomenon right now where black men are not, in
Yeah.
college right now. Like they looked at the statistics, and I think it's 19% of black men, like in HBCUs, like they're talking about Howard
Yeah.
specifically in the DMV, but this is way across the board about just
Hmm.
like the lack of black men in these spaces. And I know there's also been some chatter about it on Twitter, like, oh, why is it that black men are not going to college? Why is it? And then black women, on the other hand, are the most educated demographic in America
Yes,
right now. And there's even a stat that says that black women out earn white women because they work longer and they work like higher professions. So like black women are killing it right now. But
yes,
unfortunately, on the opposite end, black men are not, getting to that same level, and that's also affecting dating as well because black women like it, and they would prefer a man who's also at the same level or higher, but that
exactly.
pool of black men is not high right now. It's not as high. So there's also that kind of thing going on. But anyway, so I think that's just another added context to
It
what you're
is.
talking about. Yeah.
It is. And we're socialized differently. And so for me, from elementary school, and a lot of it does go back to school. So in most schools, especially on the East Coast, there's a tracking system. And I don't know if people are aware of this. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Zimbabwe. So and then
Okay.
yes, I grew up in
So let me
Zimbabwe, and
tell
then
you.
I went to college in Iowa, but
Okay.
I didn't go through elementary school like in the USA and all that.
Okay. So here's something that happens in, I know in New Jersey in the tri-state area, it's a tracking system.
Hmm.
And in the second grade, you're given a test. It's called the California Achievement Test. However you score on that test, second grade is going to determine your placement in middle school. Okay?
Oh.
And that is going to determine if you're put on a college track or if you're put on a business track. And so, a college track, they're preparing you to take the SAT to go to college. The business track, they're basically preparing you to graduate and go to trade school or to get a job. And what that means is that that decision is made in the second grade. So,
Wow.
from the second grade, how old are you in the second grade? Nine?
Yeah. About
Nine.
second grade is about 7, 8.
Seven, eight. Yeah.
Yeah.
From that age, I have been told I'm going to college. I'm going to college. You're going to college. What college do you want to go to? That was the conversation from the time I entered school until the time I graduated with my master's at 24. My entire life was you are going to school. Period. There that's
Mm.
it. You're going to college. You This is how you did on this test. You're going to be, and the way it's set up, all the college level kids eat lunch with the other college level kids. Like we actually never
Oh.
really interacted with the kids that were in the business class. Keep it 100. We never did.
Wow.
That's how it's tracked. It's a tracking system. And our teachers were different, our experiences were different in school. But what that says is that for me as a black woman and other black girls, we knew that we wanted to be able to take care of ourselves at that age. At that age, it was that serious. Like, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a doctor. I knew I wanted to be a therapist, and that required me to go to school. Whereas boys, black boys in particular, were really geared towards sports. And how do you want to be in the NFL? Things that are really unrealistic, right?
Hmm.
And there wasn't a lot of talk to black boys like, oh, you're gonna go pledge a fraternity, that you really gonna go to college, you're gonna pledge a fraternity, you're gonna be the man on campus. No one's having that conversation with black men, black boys, to get them excited about the college experience. Or you're gonna go to trade school and you're gonna own your own business, you're gonna be a contractor and a plumber. When you need a plumber, whatever they charge you, you're gonna pay it, period. If your pipes are busted in your house and this man can fix it, take my
Yeah.
money. Take my money, right? We're
Hmm.
not having that conversation with Black boys. There's no expectation that they do that. Where the expectation for me as a Black woman, very implicitly and explicitly, was that I have to be able to take care of myself, period. Period. That's what men told me, and that's what women told me. I don't know if Black men got the same feedback. I doubt they did.
That's so interesting because yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot because you know, certain people will get online and say that it's black men's fault that they are not going to college, they're choosing not to go to college. Some are, but that's really not really looking at the bigger picture because as you're saying, it starts from a very very young age, and I guess I'm
Very.
curious as to wonder why it is that you might find more girls do well on those tests as compared to other boys doing well on those tests, and how that, you know, I didn't know that that was something that was happening in the schools, and you know,
Yeah.
I that's really fascinating to
Isn't it
me, like that.
fascinating?
Yeah.
And in the Northeast, parents are spending $30,000 for kindergarten to prepare their children for these college admission tests. This is how serious it is. It is not a game. When you are really focused on how competitive that process is, you have to do everything you can to make yourself a good applicant. And that was the conversation that began for me in the eighth grade. So this is, you can't decide in 10th grade that you want to go to college. This
Hmm.
is a conversation that we're having in elementary school. And so I think that there is a larger picture and that girls are expected to have responsibility, expected, point blank, period. This is, you need to be able to take care of yourself. And that same sort of expectation that you need to be able to take care of yourself isn't placed on boys in the same way. It's just not. But there's also what I've seen as a professor. I'm also a college professor. I'm not teaching now, but I taught at UNLV, I taught at Columbia. What I see with young men is there isn't an interest in reading, and the literacy rates are low for Black men and Black boys as well. The
Hmm.
interest isn't there. And so a lot of this, and then the feedback I get is, oh, my mom wasn't involved. My parents weren't there. I was a latchkey kid. There was no adults nowhere. None,
Mm.
nowhere. There, we just raised ourselves. But they really did not respond to things that could have been more constructive, like going to the library, reading, really doing after school activities. They just did not respond, period. And so that is a much deeper issue. There are many deeper facets that go into that, but that also makes them vulnerable because when you lack critical thinking skills, it's easy to get drawn up and to be emotionally activated. And so
Mm.
the red pill content first has to create an emotional activation because when you are emotional, you are easy to manipulate. No two ways about it.
Yeah, that is so true. And the other facet that, because I was just having this conversation yesterday. The other thing as well is the lack of role models, right, for black boys growing up. Because then, I mean, it feeds into there was also when we talk about the attack on the black family as well, and we talk about like the drug epidemic, mass incarceration, and just that lack of, okay, because what, you know, you don't find a lot of content out there where a black man is saying, I went to school and I became a physics professor, or I became an engineer, and I'm really successful, I'm really doing well in this because, you know, I went to school. But you will see a lot of content that says, I hustled, I did this, now I can buy myself a Lamborghini, now
Yeah.
I'm, you know, getting all this, you know, and so, and then rap music, and then like, and as you were saying, sport, a lot of the success stories you see come from sport. So that lack of male guidance as well, I think, is also like a factor here when it comes to who is guiding you towards going to school. And you know, a lot of people grow up and say, there's no point in going to college, it's rigged anyway, it's not going to help out, so I might as well just figure it out, I might as well go out there and hustle, and I might as well, you know, do this. And just to a certain extent, I do understand that, because I do think that there's still a lot of like, there's still a lot of racism, right, in corporate world anyways. It's not as
Hmm.
if you get the job, if you get the degree, it's automatic, you're gonna be successful, you're automatic, you're gonna get a good job. It's not. There's still a lot of racism when it comes to black men in the corporate world, anyways, and so it's very complicated.
It is complicated, but to push back very gently,
Yeah.
I never had black teachers.
Mm.
Never. I never had black male teachers, black female teachers, ever, ever. And in fact, I'm on Facebook now because all my teachers from high school are on Facebook. I'm almost 50 years old, and all my teachers on there, we still communicate, like, still communicate, still send me happy birthday messages, right?
Yeah.
And none of them are black. None of them are black. And
Mm.
so I never, the principal wasn't black. No one in my life as a professional was black, period. Nobody.
Mm.
Not my dentist, not my doctor. I saw no black professionals, period. But that didn't deter me. That wasn't something I even ever thought about. Like, well, why don't I have black teachers? Once again, there were black teachers in the school, but they didn't teach the gifted kids.
Mm.
Only the white teachers taught the gifted kids and the kids that were in advanced placement. We didn't have black teachers, period.
Yeah.
And so that was my lived experience. And that didn't deter me from basically creating what I needed for my life. So no one was going to stop me, right? No
Mm.
one or nothing was going to stop me from creating what I wanted for me. And so, and I'm one drop. There are a million black women that have millions of black women that have the same narrative. And so it is frustrating to say, in the same circumstance, why did black men not adopt the same attitude? Same
Mm.
circumstance, same environment. And when people talk about mass incarceration, there I lived it. I lived it. Being on the East Coast, I saw it firsthand what the community like was like before, and then when crack came. My brother sold crack. Like, this is real. My aunt smoked crack. Like, this is not a game. I'm not making it up. It's not something I read on TV. Like, this is my real life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And and I lived next to a crack house. So this is my lived experience. I saw this firsthand, but I knew that I wanted to be the person that helped. That's how I saw myself, as the helper, as someone that can help create a solution. I didn't look at that and think fast money. I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna get that. So we got to look more into the way boys are socialized. To me, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, that's no, that's a good perspective to bring in as well. And I end up wondering. I mean, I guess we're kind of deviating from red pill because I mean, but this is all tied in. So, what's the
I'll tie it in.
socialization? Yeah, what's the socialization that's happening as to why for black girls it doesn't affect them as much as it does? What's this? Who's socializing black men to think this way and for these things to happen? Like how? What's this? What's the kind of socialization that's happening here?
A lot of it is, to me, culture. And I don't know where we lost the plot with black men,
Mm-hmm.
but excellence has always been a part of black American culture. And in the 40s, in the 50s, black people went to school that had one classroom in the South. Every grade was in the same classroom. That classroom created doctors, lawyers, teachers. We had a thriving community of black professionals from the 50s. What happened to us is something that we can all probably talk about for the rest of our life. What happened to us? You know what I mean? What really
Yeah.
happened to us? And a lot of it is what happened to black men. What happened to their pride? What happened to their desire to provide for their family, to be a pillar of their community? What happened? And the way we socialize black boys with the expectation that they're not at, what was the disconnect that no, you're not going to Harvard, Howard, you're not going anywhere, you're going to go play this basketball. Like,
Mm-hmm.
when did we start seeing black men as bucks and not as doctors and lawyers? Like, something happened, something shifted, and the way we socialize our music, our culture was that this is who you are,
Mm-hmm.
period. You rap or you play ball. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And so we lost the plot big time.
Yeah, no, and I can definitely agree with that. So we did have somewhat of a showing of that in the show because we did have a black dad and a black boy in the show.
Yes. Yes.
So, given what you're saying, how
Hmm.
did you find their relationship
Oh,
where the dad is not, he feels like he can't relate to his son? and the son
Yeah.
feels like, hey, you're never around. Like you
Yeah.
don't, and he kind of leaves the parenting to the mom. Like, okay, your mom will deal with you. I won't. And
Yeah.
yeah. How did you find that relationship?
So the entire series starts out with their relationship. The opening scene is a conversation with his name is Ashley, but I'll call him Duchesne because I've been
Yeah,
watching Top
Top
Boy.
Boy. Yeah, I love
Top
Top Boy.
Boy.
Yeah,
So that's Duchesne. So
yeah,
Duchesne is on
yeah.
the phone with the son, and he's basically the son is telling him, I don't feel good again. Like he's trying not to go to school again.
Hmm.
And he's just like, I don't want to deal with this. Go deal with your mom. And a lot of that, the vibe of his character, his shirts, you can tell he was muscular,
Hmm.
right? And even at one point, the son says to him, I know you don't want to be here. You want to go to the gym. You want to leave. You don't want to talk to me. He really made that clear. Like, I feel like I'm the last on your list. I don't feel like I'm important to you.
Yeah,
And what the male character was saying is that he said, I don't feel like I'm the best dad for my son.
yeah.
And what that said to me, which I see often in my practice, is in his mind, my son should be like me.
Mm,
And a lot of parents have this completely, completely wrong. It's the idea that you're my child. No, you're not. That is a child that you brought into the world. That child has a right to be whatever they want. And his son did seem to be a little bit awkward. And Jade said, well, he's off. He's off, is what she said when he was interviewing Jade. And you can tell the discomfort because she's like, aren't you Adam's dad? And she says, well, he didn't get your cheekbones, right? So, very much indicating you're handsome, very handsome, and
yeah,
put together, and your son is not. He's awkward. His haircut isn't right. His lineup ain't fresh. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like all these subtle indications that these two are not the same.
Hmm.
And in his mind, my son would be more athletic. My son would be more charismatic. My son would be the man because I was the man. So I don't know
Yeah,
how to interact with this person who isn't me. You weren't properly prepared to be a parent because being a parent means these kids come here through you. They don't belong to you. It's a big difference. Big difference.
that is a very big
Big.
difference. Yeah, and especially it. I related that to a lot coming from an African household, and even just like because that's a big thing, right? The expectation on
Yeah.
you are my child, so when you're going to school, you're gonna become a doctor, you're gonna become an engineer, you're gonna become this.
Yeah.
Any deviation from that is not
It's not acceptable.
it's not welcome, right?
No.
You have to be a certain way, and so
Hmm.
people do feel like they own their children,
They
and,
do.
and a lot of people, and that cuts across every culture. I don't think
Every
that's
culture.
yeah.
Every culture. And you know what? I don't even have kids. And at one point, I thought about having children and I wanted this little Aisha. Well, I'm gonna dress her in pink and we're gonna wear glitter. I'm in a sorority, I'm an AKA. She's gonna be an AKA like her mom. And as I gradually started to think about this more seriously and realize that my daughter is allowed to be whoever she wants to be.
Hmm.
She's allowed to wear whatever she wants to wear. She's going to tell me who she is. I'm not going to tell her who she is. And so the parenting, men understanding that becoming a father means that your role is to create safety in your home for your child to express themselves, period,
Yeah,
and to protect them wherever they go so that they can be their full selves. And in the series, um, his name is Jamie. He liked to draw.
he did. Yeah,
And they said he was good. So why not have a tutor? Why not explore that? Why not get him all the easels and all? Why not really pour into that if that's what he's good at? If that's what he clearly does? Why not?
yeah,
And it's really back to the parents. No, you don't value art. That's why you're not pouring into the art. His dad wanted him to play sports. He
yeah.
wasn't athletic, but that's what the father wanted because he thought that would make him tougher. When what does he need to be tough for?
Mm,
Like you haven't stopped living your childhood. Parents are not done with their own childhood and they see their children as an extension of their childhood.
yeah,
And that's across the board. That don't have nothing to do with race or red pill. That's across the board. But it exacerbates the red pill crisis because now we have men who have not dealt with their own shame and their own pain from their own childhood. And then that plays out in the way that they parent and the way that they show up or don't show up for their sons.
Yeah, because you just made me realize this. I'm surprised I didn't realize it earlier. Like, as you were saying about, now I'm going to also call him Duchesne, him and his son, and
Hmm.
how you're talking about how he said, I can't raise my kid because I can't relate to him. And then we look at Jamie and his dad, and how the dad was like, I tried to get him to football. And, even Jamie himself talked about, I felt shame because when I couldn't score, I couldn't play football well, my dad couldn't even look at me, and I
Yeah.
felt so shameful. And the dad also said I couldn't look at him. I was so
Hmm.
ashamed. I'm embarrassed that
Yeah.
you are my son. And that whole
Hmm.
moment was, I think it did a lot more for Jamie than was explicit. They kind of just touched on it. But as you're saying though, that like the dad wanted to live out in the UK, of course, football is
It's
prevalent. Football
huge.
is like how
Yeah.
that's how you become rich in the UK. Like,
Yeah.
you raise a little David Beckham and you're good. But
Hmm.
that's not always the case because the sports, only a few of you get selected for that. Most of you won't make it. But every
Right.
parent has a dream.
Right.
You hope that your kid is the one who's talented enough, to make it. So
Hmm.
I didn't actually. They showed both of that in both races, but it's up to us, I guess, to make the connection because I didn't even clock it that,
Yeah.
these are these are actually similar things, right?
Yeah. Very similar things. And that shame, that moment that Jamie described from his perspective of not doing well, but having his dad there, and how his dad couldn't look at him. But then his dad said he felt shame because the other fathers were laughing at his son, and he couldn't handle it. He didn't know how to respond and how to protect his son. And that moment, the two of them, their shame is so pronounced. And even in the first episode, when the father looks at him and says, "What have you done?" And Jamie just does like this, and then the father turns away, and Jamie reaches for him, and he pulls away. Jamie
Mm.
reaches out to him to touch him, and he's no, don't touch me. He pulls away. That is very similar to what they experienced on that soccer field, where the connection was lost. They couldn't
Mm.
connect. They could not connect, and that was very indicative of what their emotional reality had been most of his life.
Wow, that really is a fascinating. Yeah, that's my mind is blown with that. That's because there's a lot to unpack there. So
Yeah.
just more and so on how we've seen how red pill does affect young boys and all these things. So I want to talk more about, because this issue is not just on parents, but I just want to talk about parents a little bit for now. For him, Jamie's dad, he was like, you have a roof over your head. You're not out in the streets, doing drugs. You're in your room. I know where you are. It's fine. So you're
Hmm.
good. We're good. I'm raising a good kid, right? And a lot of parents now, because of even the economy, right, where both parents need to work, and especially in the UK and in the US, a lot of the times you just kind of keep your kid in the house, give them an iPad. Okay, just take this iPad.
Yeah.
I'm too stressed out about bills to kind of take you outside
Hmm.
and play and what all these things. So I know, what do you think that parents can do, or people in general, to limit the influence of red pill content on young boys? Like, what are the ways that
Hmm.
you can, what can you do?
Nobody's going to like what I'm going to say, but the reality of it is that boys are more sensitive. And there was a researcher, I read an article, I should have brought the name for you, where he actually suggested that boys start school 2 years later than what they're starting school now
Hmm.
because of the lack of emotional maturity and also the sensitivity. And so he actually said that instead of starting school at 6, boys should start school at 8. It's a red shirt theory. It's a red shirt theory that boys are red shirted for 2 years in school so that when they start school, they'll be at the same pace and level as girls. Very fascinating concept, right?
Hmm.
But parents have to understand that they have a responsibility to their children that supersedes them paying bills, supersedes that. And so that means that it is not only your responsibility to provide for these children, but you have to provide for them emotionally. You have to be involved in their life. You have to know who their friends are. You have to know what they're watching and listening to. They cannot have an iPad and go in the other room. That can't happen. It cannot
Mm,
happen. You are putting Andrew Tate in their hands and telling them to go in the other room and have a full conversation with him. That can't happen. They cannot have a computer in their room. They can't. They
mm,
can't. And too many parents do not know the seriousness of this algorithm and what it is doing to children. But it is their responsibility. Ain't nobody tell you to have kids. Ain't nobody tell you to have kids. You did that. And because
yeah,
you did that, now you have this responsibility that is not going away. And if something goes sideways with them, yes, it is your fault. It's your fault.
yeah.
Period.
Yeah, no, that's very, very true. Because I was even thinking that even outside of parents, or I guess it's your parent. Like, I don't see the need why a child even should have a phone until a certain age, right? There's no reason why I should have a smartphone. I
No.
mean, I can understand maybe like, okay, you're going to school and I need a way to communicate with you, but I can just give you like a, you know, like one of those brick Nokia phones from 2001. But
Yep.
then that also can create other problems, right? Like, okay, you're the only child in your year group who has a phone that is clearly very old. You might be susceptible to bullying. You might
Of
feel like,
course.
oh, my parents hate me, all these things. And that can also create, I guess, another host of problems. So, but I still do think, so I think as a society, we need to come together to say, I don't know if the government needs to just say kids under 15 cannot own a smartphone. Maybe that's like because that's what the show was trying to do too, right? Like, it's not
Mhm.
just parents, it's everybody. It's the school, it's the
Yeah.
government, it's your environment, it's everything is
Everybody. Yeah.
is feeding into this.
I agree. Everyone is feeding into it. But when we think about the responsibility of children, that is a parent's responsibility. It is their responsibility to work with educators, to work with legislators, whatever, creating something that is safe for their children. And so, do kids need a fully functioning iPhone? Absolutely not. Can they have a phone that they can communicate directly with their parents? Can
Hmm.
you monitor their social media? Yes, you can. And that doesn't take a lot, but it takes effort, right? It takes effort.
Yeah,
You have to be involved and you have to see what's going on their phone because this is serious. This is serious. And it is altering the way they see themselves and the way they see the world. So it's a wake up call for parents. Like you're going to have to get involved. Take the door off. You don't need a
mm,
door in your room. You don't,
yeah,
because these kids are too smart. You hear what I'm telling you? They
yeah,
smart. They got burner phones. Their friends will give them a phone. It would never happen in my house. It would never happen. That's why I don't have no kids. It would never happen. I'd be right at school, right in the classroom. But then parents will say to me, "Well, I have to work." You had kids. This is now the responsibility that you took on. So you have to be there. You have to show up. Everyone there needs to know, oh, that's Brian's mom. Brian mom don't play. Mm-mm.
hmm,
That's what needs to happen. Period. Period. That's what needs to
yeah,
happen. So, but I think a parent will push back and say, I only have so much to give. And I'm working. Sometimes I'm working two jobs and I'm doing the best that I can. I see that. But this is more serious. And the
yeah,
consequences to this are very extreme. So
yeah,
going the extra mile has to happen. Period.
yeah. It really, really does. And you're right about, yeah, it's very hard. It's very, very
It's
difficult
hard.
to navigate that because, yeah, at the same time you're stretched thin as a parent, especially for like single parents, right? You're stretched thin and you just don't have the the bandwidth, as they would
You
say,
don't.
to kind of, so as long as your kid's not out there doing it, but then again, you're saying it does have dire consequences
It
because
does.
it puts a lot of women at risk out there because you don't know what your son's gonna do as soon as they're outside.
Right. But you
So,
know what? To your point earlier, if I had been a part of this generation and being a latchkey kid and not having parental supervision, I don't know what would have become of me because my mom wasn't home. But on Saturday, I was watching Thundercats and cartoons on Saturday and eating a bowl of cereal.
mhm,
What is on TV now on Saturday morning is fundamentally different than what
100%.
I was exposed to. And so Thursday evening, it was Bill Cosby and it was Martin and it was Living Color. That's what I watched on TV.
Hmm.
What these kids watch on TV now is fundamentally different. And having Sega Genesis and then Nintendo, what Super Mario Brothers looked like in the 80s and 90s versus Fortnite,
Yeah.
Grand Theft
Very.
Auto, it's too much. It's too much. I don't know what I would have been exposed to if that was what I was seeing all the time with girls and getting a full weave and getting your teeth fixed and getting a BBL. I could have easily become that if that was what I was consuming all the time. But because I was consuming Bill Cosby, A Different World was my favorite show, it was set in a black college. It's my favorite show on the planet, right? I've seen every episode. My favorite character was Whitley, and I did my life just the way she did. Or Felicia Rashad and how elegant and graceful she is. And I modeled my life after her. This is a woman of class and grace. I want to be her because that's who was elevated for me. I did what
Yeah.
she did. I'm an AKA. She's an AKA. I went to college. She went to college. Who do young girls have to pedestalize like that now? We have a lot more than men do, but they're competing with the reality show hosts. But who do men have to say? We had news anchors that we would see. Ed Gordon. I know I'm throwing out names you don't know. Ed Gordon is a black newscaster that would come on every night. Dignified brother. You know what I mean? Suit.
Hmm.
He come and he delivered. That's somebody that you can look at and say, man, I want to be just like him.
Yeah.
Who do they have? We had a ton of black sportscasters that were elegant and really presented themselves well and were married to black women. Okay.
Important
Or
point.
that's a whole nother story, but
Yeah.
that's what it
Important
was.
point.
And there was this pride. We wore HBCU sweatshirts. That was the pride. You had a Howard sweatshirt, you had it all, right? That was everything. Didn't even I was in high school and that's what I wanted. I wanted that Howard sweatshirt.
Yeah.
And that our culture was positive. The culture now is not.
No.
So it is no surprise that boys are susceptible to this type of content. No surprise whatsoever.
It's scary. And again, as you're saying this, again, what you grow up watching and looking at has a very direct influence on
Yes.
how you move in the world. So
Yes.
if I'm watching a positive role model, of course I'm gonna try. If I'm watching a negative role model, like if I'm watching Andrew Tate all day long, that's gonna put me on a different path. And it
Right.
can be very hard to kind of bring you back.
With that. It would
Yeah,
be impossible for me now with Felicia Rashad, this elegant, beautiful black woman who has always just been graceful, to now say that, and no shade to Cardi B because I love Cardi B, but like, oh no, that's my vibe. I want to get my
yeah.
groove back. You know what I'm saying? I want to go back. I want to do the thing, and that's the type of life that I want. That would it doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't happen. Do you understand what I'm saying? And
100%.
so that's what I mean by socialization. These subtle messages that this is a woman that you want to be. And she's still elegant, still graceful, still beautiful. And the same thing with A Different World. Like just seeing black people in college and seeing the one girl in college, Kim, she was a doctor. And this is back in the 90s. And she refused her scholarship because they supported apartheid in South Africa. This is what I'm watching. And we all
Yeah.
was like, go Kim, you don't need that scholarship, girl. You know what I mean? They
Yeah.
not supporting, they supporting apartheid. No, don't take that money.
No ways. Yeah.
That's what we were talking about and really praising that character for what she did. So
Mm-hmm.
this is what we're talking about and watching as compared to what? What do kids have exposure to now all the time? There's no comparison. And so that's why you see what you see. And it's really sad. It's really sad.
Yeah. It is really sad because I'm always lamenting, like as you're saying, with the cartoons we grew up watching versus the content kids grow up watching now. They don't know why Cartoon Network. They don't know the bangers we used to have back in the day, and just
None.
like they don't have that. And I sometimes go on Cartoon Network just to see what's out there, and I'm like, man, all you have is Baby Shark now or Coco Melon, whatever the
Yeah.
that's it. That's so kind of in closing or getting to that. We're talking about misogyny here, right? Because that's also what Red Pill content is mostly about. It's that, and this treating women as lesser than, right? So in this current climate, like how can men hold other men accountable right? What can we do to say that ain't right, or no, you can't do that? What are some ways that you feel like men can actually hold themselves accountable?
So I'm going to give you a real life example. Last week I was in the park with my dog and I was reading a book. I had my phone like this and I was just walking my dog. And this little boy said, "Are you gay?" I heard, but I didn't know he was talking to me. And he said it louder, "Lady with the dog, are you gay?" And I said, "Is this little boy talking to me?" And then his friend said, "Bro, chill, stop. She's not doing nothing to you. Stop." And
Mm.
he was like, "No, are you gay, lady?" And the boy was like, "Bro, I told you, stop. Because if she come over here, you're not going to want that smoke." Blew me away. And he stopped. He
Mm.
never said another word. And I didn't say anything, but I wanted to be like, "Tss, tss, tss." That's how men do it. He corrected him in real time. In real time, I was literally walking my dog, not bothering nobody. And when his friend corrected him, it wasn't abusive, it wasn't abrasive. He was like, "Bro, stop. I'm telling you,
Mm-hmm.
stop. She's not bothering you. Stop." And that is exactly what men can do. Call it in the moment. When you see something like that happen, bro, like that makes me uncomfortable. Stop. And men don't hide the way they feel or the things that they're doing or the way that they treat women. When a man says that, that is an opportunity to shut that down, to shut it down and to call it out, really to call it out. And I think what the problem is with men is that there's the fear that it's going to become aggressive,
Yeah.
right? Like if you step in and say something, "Oh, you're not my dad. Who are you talking to?" And it can become very volatile, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there was an episode where this was like a pastor's throwback series where two black men had a disagreement. I can't think of it now. It was like the black pastors or something. And this pastor said to this black man, "I made a mistake. Will you please forgive me? I spoke wrong. I jumped to conclusions. Please forgive me. I'm asking you, please forgive me." It was beautiful, a beautiful moment of how communication can be very compassionate and how men can show compassion for each other by being willing to apologize and being willing to hear what their friends are saying to them. And
Mm-hmm.
so, if someone's saying to you, "That's not how you treat women. You don't do that. You don't put your hands on women. And I don't want to be around nobody like that." Right. And even DJ Academics, when he had that dude on and the dude said to him, why would you want to date somebody 20 something years old and you in your 30s? He's like, "That's weird. That's
Yeah.
weird." And called him out on it. "That's weird, bro. I don't like that. That's weird. You would never do that to my sister." And he was like, "Well, why?" See, there's a conversation. There's a conversation. And so the conversations need to be had. But this requires men to see other men the way that they see themselves. They have to see other men as valuable and as redeemable. That if you
Mm.
talk to him, he'll listen to you. He ain't gonna listen to me unless they're paying me as their therapist. My male clients listen to me. But if that's your homie and you see him as someone that has value, he will listen to you. That is a fact.
I love that. Yeah, no, that's definitely true. I'm just thinking about, yeah, I'm thinking about a lot with that. And but yeah, that's those are good things to do. Like, yeah, exactly. Calling it out, calling out bad behavior and say, bro, that's not it. No ways.
Yeah.
That's not how you handle that. And that's not,
Yeah.
that I don't vibe with what you're doing. Um I had a point in my head that I wanted to bring up. It's escaping me at this point for some reason. But oh, I was gonna say that men, as you're saying, have the funny thing is, well, the cognitive dissonance here is that men feel like they can't put themselves in situations because they're scared of what the man will do, even though it's much more dangerous for women, right?
Yeah.
So if you think it's gonna be bad for you, how bad do you think it's gonna be for? Because I saw some video on Twitter about like this man in a train, and there are many videos of these instances where like a man is berating another woman in public, right? Totally like, and then you just see the men quiet. People just watching. They ain't no
Yeah.
one standing in saying, "Yo, what are you doing?" Because they're
Yeah.
like, I don't want the smoke that this man's gonna do, but
Right.
she can handle it. And it's just like, if you're a real man, to be honest, you stand up and say, "I don't care."
Yeah.
That's not how we do. And if 4 or 5 of you feel the same way, you can. Are you all scared of one guy? Come on,
Yeah.
So I think there's that. And then if we see in the show too, right, where Jamie only rates his dad. Jamie didn't rate his mom or his sister,
Yeah.
right? Those two people to him didn't matter,
Mm-mm.
even though his dad doesn't seem like he was around all the time. So it was just also like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
the
it's
way that it's the way that men value other men, because he wanted the dad to be the, I think it was an appropriate adult or something.
yes, yes,
And even when they told him, well, Jamie wants you to do it. And the mom said, well, why would he want you to do it? Like, you don't know
exactly.
about him. And he was even surprised. Like, what? And so it's this idea of the desire of boys to have the approval of their father. And I think we all want approval of our parents, but there is a dynamic with boys and their dad that is very important. And sometimes fathers, most of the time, fathers need a lot of help in understanding how to affirm and validate their son, how to let their son know, I love you. You don't have to be like me. You don't have to be anything. I
Hmm.
love you. Right. And so if that had been my son on the soccer field, my godson out there, and he didn't do well and somebody laughed, well, we all gonna fight because you ain't laughing
Hmm.
at my son. He trying. He out here
Hmm.
trying. I'm taking my shirt. I'm ready to fight. Like what? Because this is where we have to get. And I think this is a good place to end. But
Yeah.
when you see yourself as a global citizen, right? I'm an adult. That means that whenever I'm around children, I'm an adult. I'm going to protect any child that I see, point blank, period. I'm
Yes.
going to protect them. If I see any child that needs help, I'm going to stop my car. I'm going to pull over. I'm going to do what I can to help. If I see a man that needs help, I'm going to do what I can because I feel like I'm a part of a community. And so the care and concern that I have for my godson is the care and concern that I have for all children. And when we step out of the gendered way of seeing each other, then you can see two people arguing and you can clearly see this man is can harm this woman with his bare hands and she can't harm him. So I'm going to step in because someone's going to get hurt. That's why I'm going to step in. And I'm
Yeah.
not going to step in to fight. I'm going to step in to protect someone. And so when we can get to that point within ourselves, it's natural to act as a community member when you are in public. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And that's, yeah, that's a beautiful way to kind of tie it all in. I really appreciated your time and the conversation. I feel like there's a lot more we could
You can talk
dive
about this stuff
into.
all day. This is a college course. You know what I mean? It's a
Yes,
college course.
exactly. 100%. And I think it's very, very pertinent that it's had. I hope that many colleges are actually taking the time to, because this is real life.
It's
You
real
know,
life.
it's, but anyway, I do appreciate. And again, you know what? Maybe we'll have another episode at some point. Maybe I feel like there's a lot more we could get into, but either way, I really appreciate you coming here, talking to the people. And I hope that people feel inspired to think about how they are in their lives and how they relate to people in their lives, and especially men out there. My
Yeah.
men, my men listeners, I hope you're taking all these things to heart because we can learn a lot here. So
Yeah.
anyway, I thank you. So with that, listener, I will appreciate you and we'll catch you on the next episode.